weird things in my hair. Just know that it is Black Girl Magic Struggle. It's aloe vera. You understand. If you know, you know. There's no intro for this video, so yeah, it's talking about some really triggering, fucked up things. So yeah, my name is Lo, and today we are talking about the most disturbing movies that I have ever seen. And just a disclaimer, I mean, I don't care if you think these movies were not as disturbing. I don't care if you think I'm a pussy for thinking they were disturbing. And you may ask yourself, why do you watch disturbing movies? And I will tell you that most of the time I watch disturbing movies so that I can remember that humans are not to be trusted. The moment you let your guard down is the moment you die. So yeah. I also wanted to say, people who force or trick people into watching disturbing things are disgusting. Some of these movies, well, I think one in particular, is being used to disturb people. We'll get to it later. I'm gonna give spoilers in these movies. Some of them, I really don't care. I really don't even want you to watch them. You don't have to watch disturbing things for clout. You don't have to watch disturbing things to prove that you're a horror fan. You don't have to watch things that disturb your peace. So yeah, these are some of the most disturbing movies that I've ever seen. And if you hear people screaming in there, this is not my house. First, I need help dealing with my traumas. So we're gonna pour ourselves a glass. We are of age, so please, we are of age. Yeah. If you're an empath, don't watch these movies. If you're a sociopath, you'll probably enjoy these movies. So yeah. The first movie I'm going to talk about is Requiem for a Dream. Requiem for a Dream is one of those movies where if you want to scare the shit out of someone not to do drugs, show them Requiem for a Dream. Requiem for a Dream, 2000 movie. I spoke about it on Naruto Conference, I believe. Yeah, it's one of those movies you see once, you don't need to see it again. It's not enjoyable, and it's not meant to be enjoyable. It's basically about addiction in different forms. You know, there's drug addiction, addiction to like dieting, and all sorts of shit, and how it impacts people and the people around them. What people are willing to do to facilitate their addictions. And basically, the scene that disturbed me the most was not necessarily the guy's arm getting amputated, but the girl who felt like she needed to get money so badly that I don't know how to say it in a sentence that makes sense. She found a job for a party, and at the party they basically gangbanged her, I guess is what you can say. And at the end, it's like the look on her face when she got the money after the job was sheer bliss, knowing that she's gonna get another score, and that disturbed me so much. I don't advise anyone to watch any of these movies, but yeah, it really broke my heart. And yeah, man, drugs are bad. And it's not like Trainspotting, where Trainspotting was also hard to watch, but it was kind of camp, you know. It had its dark moments, but yeah, Requiem for a Dream was dark the whole time. It's a lot. The next movie on this list for me is The Hills Have Eyes, 2006. Of course, Baby Lo was nowhere near the age where she was supposed to be watching this movie, and yeah, well, maybe I was near the age, but I wasn't supposed to be watching this movie when I watched it. And it's fun, you know, I do enjoy my cannibal movies, but this family goes on a road trip, and of course, it's kind of like they go to the outskirts near a place where they used to test nuclear bombs, and of course, they camp out somewhere where they're not supposed to camp out. I do believe that someone told them not to go there. I'm not too sure. I might be mixing up wrong turn. But yeah, they go and they camp out, and you know, they're there and they're stuck there because they had a flat and they're camping out for the night. And of course, these I don't want to be offensive, but I feel like they were going for that stereotypical hillbilly thing, but like with radiation. Like they've been affected for generations by the radiation. Yeah. So they came and then they got the dad, and the dad is strung up on a cross, I believe. I may be having the Mandela effect, but like I think it was a cross, but he was strung up on something, and he's like they light him on fire, and his family is like trying to put the fire out. But the most disturbing part for me is that their teenage daughter was in the RV, and she was being, trigger warning, she was being raped by one of the hillbillies, and it was just so fucking disturbing to me. Like I was just not prepared for it whatsoever. So yeah, the hills of eyes, hey? It was just so fucked up. Yeah, it triggered me. The next movie on this list is, we need to talk about Kevin, 2011. This movie, I just couldn't, it really scared me in terms of, will I ever have kids? Like, I don't want to have to deal with that shit. Like, basically, it's a story about a woman who had a child, a son, and it was a very difficult pregnancy. It was a difficult delivery. He was a difficult child. He was not responsive to her, and she also was not responsive to him. So it was just a very weird dynamic, and she ended up having a second child who was much more easier to warm up to, a little girl. And her and her husband were raising these two kids, and then Kevin grows up to be this, I want to say, smart ass, you know, always trying to say something disturbing, being quiet, but a menacing type of quiet. And eventually Kevin decides to, trigger warning again, decides to do a school shooting with a bow. Is it a bow and arrow or a crossbow? I can't remember. Anyway, let me continue. I'll get to the part. I'll get to the thing that disturbed me. He decides to do the shooting. You know, his mom came home. I don't even know how she was not. I can't remember. I haven't seen this movie in a long time. I don't know how she was not encompassed in the carnage, but she found the dead body of her daughter and her husband in the garden. And the sad thing was, his little sister really loved him, and his dad was really sweet, really understanding, really kind. And you could just tell that the mother was like, why? Like, it should have been me, because we've always had this weird, estranged relationship. Your dad has always been on your side. I don't understand why you're doing this. And then eventually she gets the call that Kevin showed up to school. He injured and I think killed some students. Yeah, and I think the thing that disturbed me the most was when she was visiting him in juvie. She asked him, she was like, Ushe Kevin, why did you do what you did? And then he was just like, I don't know. And he started crying. And I'm just like, what was the reason? What was the reason? Like, I just don't, it just stuck with me for a very long time. And I was just like, is it a kid thinking he's a psychopath or a sociopath and then realizing later that he's actually not? He was just trying to be something he wasn't. Like, it really just disturbed and upset me a lot. And it's really made me question having children because you don't know what you're going to get. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's very much beyond nurturing. I know a lot of people in Zambia are going to disagree with me, but I think people will be who they're going to be, no matter how good of a parent you are, because his dad was so good with him. He was so loving. He was so kind. And he was just not receptive to kindness. So yeah, that fucked me up. I don't know if I'm gonna have kids. So yeah. The next movie I'm gonna talk about is I Spit on Your Grave, the remake, 2010. I watched this movie. Yeah, I watched this movie and I regret watching it because it is mostly just, you know, very indulgent trigger warning. It's an hour-long gang rape scene and it is so fucked up. It is so disturbing. This woman goes to the outskirts, you know, to the forest. I don't know what they call it in America, whatever. She goes to the outskirts and she decides to take this trip because she's a writer and she has writer's block, and she feels like if she's with nature, she'll be more motivated to write because there'll be no distractions. And there is a guy there who obviously he likes her and she does not like him back, and she rejects him, and then he gets really upset because he felt like she is a city girl and she thinks she's so smart. So him and his friends decide to teach her a lesson by raping her. And she's raped by a number of men, including a police officer and someone who is portrayed to have a mental illness. And it is so disgusting, so graphic, to the point where she jumps off a bridge and she's believed to be dead. And that first half of the movie really disturbed and fucked me up, but I guess that's what they wanted to do because they wanted you to be happy for the second half of the movie, which is basically her murdering them brutally because she's broken, she's destroyed, so she is not dead, and she hunts each of them down and she murders them brutally and graphically. I mean, no death and no amount of torture can heal her from whatever they did to her because it was so fucked up, and I don't advise anyone to watch that movie. And if you watch that movie and you thought it was funny, if you thought it was cool, then you can go and take your rightful place in hell and burn there. Thank you so much. The next movie on my list is Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, and it is a 1986 movie. And well, this movie I obviously watched when I was way too young. And it's basically a story about this man who is a serial killer and he murders everybody, men, women, and children. He does not discriminate, which is also probably the reason why it was difficult to find him. It's loosely based on this serial killer. I'm gonna put the picture somewhere. This serial killer, and trigger warning for this movie. For me, okay, this is the storyline of the movie. That it's the romance part of the storyline that fucked me up. So basically, his friend Otis, who is also some sort of a criminal, and it's also based off this person here. He's also some sort of a drug dealer person or something. I don't know if he's also a serial killer, but they were together in jail. So Otis introduces Henry to his sister Becky, who used to be abused by her dad, and she asked Henry, like, because he went to jail some time back for killing his mom, And he says, no, my mom used to humiliate me and abuse me. She used to have sex with men in front of me, and it was so disturbing, so I murdered her. And then Becky's like, oh my god, I was also with a parent who is so garbage, and my father used to rape me. So yeah, so they bond on that, they fall in love, and they, you know, Becky feels so safe with him, but he's a serial killer, he's a psychopath. And as we all know, all psychopaths are sociopaths, therefore they have no empathy. So me there as a child, I'm watching this movie, I'm like, oh my god, people who are evil can love. But no, there's this scene where like their relationship just starts deteriorating, I feel. If I remember correctly. Because obviously I've not watched this movie again. So their relationship starts deteriorating, and they just, it just becomes more of a chore for Henry, I feel. And eventually, all you see in the movie is, I think they have a blowout, like they argue, or they even make up, I think. Oh, I forgot to mention, he's a grifter, so he moved from town to town murdering people. Obviously, he can't stay in one place. So when he's in Chicago, that's where he meets Becky, his girlfriend. So the last scene of the movie is you see him leaving I think it's a hotel room or apartment, alone, after agreeing that he's going to go to, like, they agreed to move, I think. They agreed to move to another town. So he's leaving alone, and he's driving alone. And then he stops the car, and he dumps a suitcase and drives off. And you know exactly what that means. Even me as a child, I knew exactly what that meant. It meant that Becky was in the suitcase. He murdered and dismembered her and put her in the suitcase. And my heart, I was just like, oh my god. So what are you saying to me? Are you telling me that someone who loves me and claims to love me can do this to me? So yeah, as you may or may not know or believe, that has really been a movie that has terrified me and affected my relationships growing up. But yeah, you have to be careful, guys. Like, anyone can snap on you, because everyone is trying to be normal, so there's a lot of people pretending to be normal. So yeah. The next movie on this list is Megan is Missing. Yes, I'm going to spoil this movie so that you know not to see this movie. And if you are still hellbent on seeing the movie, you're not going to be surprised by anything, because people are getting really fucked up by this movie. People are getting very triggered. People need therapy. It's awful. And if you watch this movie and you enjoy it, then, like I said, you can go take your seat in hell and burn for the rest of your life, for the rest of eternity rather, because you'll be dead. If you're on TikTok, if you're on the dark side of TikTok, you've heard of this movie. It recently regained popularity. It was made in 2011, and recently the director of that movie came out with a statement, because the actresses in the movie were like, oh, the movie we did many years ago is gaining traction. So yeah, he usually gave people a trigger warning. And Megan is Missing, I do believe it is banned in America. So it's banned in the USA. And he says that you should not watch that movie alone. You should not watch it at night. And once you see the words photo number 1, you have 4 seconds before you see things that you don't want to see. And he was not lying. So the first half of the movie is basically, and major trigger warning here. The first half of the movie is teenage girls. One is 13 at the time and the other one is 14. And obviously teenage girls, one of them is more, mature, meaning she's a little bit, she knows about sex and all those things. And the other one is more naive, she's younger, so she doesn't really know much about the world or what boys want or what boys expect. It's just a mess. So it's basically children navigating drugs and sex and all those things, and you even know that it's fucked up. So Megan is unfortunately just doing all sorts of things to gain male attention, because she has something missing in her life, and she meets this guy online through a friend, and eventually she agrees to meet the guy and she is taken. And the other girl, I can't remember her name unfortunately, the other girl who was the more naive girl, she's aware of the guy, so she asks him if he's seen Megan, and he's obviously like no, and then he proceeds to try and flirt with her, and she reports it to the police. And you know, pictures of Megan surface online on a fetish website, and she is in these awful positions. She's definitely being tortured and raped, and it's fucked up. And after that, the movie just gets worse and worse. So the guy who took Megan starts threatening Megan's friend, and eventually he takes her, he kidnaps her. And all this is a found footage movie, so it's footage from people's phones, it's footage from Megan's friend's camera and the news and all sorts of places that they claim to have gotten the footage. It's made to feel like it's real, and the problem is that it does feel real as the movie progresses. Obviously, the acting of the girls in the beginning was not very good, but for some reason they are very good at conveying terror and depression and their spirits being broken, and it really disturbs you. So the friend is taken, she's kept in a dungeon-like place, she's chained, she's in her underwear, she is made to eat like a dog, she is obviously eventually raped, and it is a graphic scene where you are watching her get raped, and it just does it does the most to really break your spirit because you're watching her spirit be broken. So obviously the kidnapper is like, oh yeah, Megan is fine, she's here, you know. So eventually, after he's done what he needs to do to Megan's friend, he tells her, hey, you want to go home, right? And she's like, yeah, I want to go home, because obviously these are children. And the reason it's banned in America is because it does depict awful sexual violence against children. We know the actresses are not children, but at the end of the day, if you are empathetic and you watch things to be immersed into the story, then you really do feel like this is happening to children, and it is so fucked up. And there is this scene, yeah, where he says, oh, you can go home, just get into this barrel because I don't want you to see where we are going when I drop you home. And then she's so like excited, she has hope. And then he opens the barrel and there's Megan's dead, decomposing body in the barrel, and he proceeds to stuff Megan's friend in the barrel with Megan's decomposing body. And the next scene is basically him digging a hole to bury her alive while she is begging for her life for like 10 minutes. And it is one of the worst and most awful and disturbing things that I have ever seen in my life. And it really fucked me up because there is a true crime story about this woman who, when she was about 12 or 13, she was speaking to a man online, and he told her to go outside, and he took her. And when he took her, she was obviously like, who are you? You're not the person I've been talking to. And he takes her to his house and he puts her in a room, and there's all sorts of BDSM things on the wall, and she knows that she's in danger, and he immediately begins to rape her. And she is a child. She was a child. And for her, I don't know if I can say lucky for her, because most people who go through such violence do not wish to survive it. So she was rescued by the FBI, and the FBI did later inform her and her family that the day that they rescued her, the guy who took her was planning on killing her. And for me, I was just like, this happens to so many women and girls out there, and children, you know what I mean? It happens, they are never found, we don't know what happened to them, but it kind of gives you insight into the terrors of what they are facing. And it's one of those things that you would never want to show it to someone because you wouldn't want to put them through that. But apparently it's fun on the internet to show each other disturbing things, and I think that needs to stop. That is one of the most awful movies I have ever seen, and it really fucked me up and stuck with me. So the last movie on my list is Cannibal Holocaust, and it is, how many years ago was this made? Cannibal Holocaust. It is a 1980 movie, and it is fucked up. It is, for me, it didn't disturb me as badly as the others on this list, but there is a part that kind of stuck with me. So basically, just to shorten the storyline, these people went to the Amazon to try and find people, I don't know, who went missing in the Amazon. And yes, this movie is highly prolific. It is one of those movies they say if you haven't watched it, you're not a horror fan, but you don't have to watch it. You shouldn't watch it. It was shrouded in so much secrecy at the time that it looked like a snuff film, because as it's a found footage movie, and the gore in there is actually pretty realistic, and the director actually was leaning into the narrative, and he actually told the actors to go into hiding so that people would believe that they were dead. And it was so bad that this man was taken to court, and they were like, you are a murderer, can you please go to jail? And then the actors came and said, hey, surprise, we're all just acting and we're not dead. And it's just one of those infamous movies. But yeah, so let me spoil it for you. So basically, Cannibal Holocaust is a movie about these people who went to the Amazon to try and locate a missing film crew that went to the Amazon. I watched this movie over 10 years ago, please. I can't really remember, and I'm not gonna watch it again. So they went to the Amazon to try and locate their missing friends, and they find this tribe. These tribes, I think they made multiple tribes, but they found this tribe, and they said, okay, we're gonna release the hostages or something like that. And they go and they try and gain their trust, and the villagers are fine, and it is alleged that the tribe are cannibals, which is obviously a dangerous stereotype which has been perpetuated throughout the years that people believe. But yeah, fast forward through all the things. So these people, the guests of the tribe, there is one woman, and I want to say there's 3 or 4 men, I'm not too sure. So there's one woman and there's about 3 men, and this is now going to the part that messed me up. So, and also for vegans and people who are animal rights activists, just don't even try and lay your eyes on this movie, because they were genuinely killing animals for bands. Like, they were killing them. Well, anyway, they said that they were doing it to eat or for food, but it's not for you. Don't watch it. It's not for anyone, really. So yeah, they find this girl. She's a native girl, and the men proceed to rape her. And the woman is there screaming, no, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And obviously, I'm already like so disappointed and so distressed. I'm like, was this necessary? So eventually the people move on, they leave the girl there, and later on they find her body mounted on a pike. For those of you who've watched the Shaka mini series, you know what it looks like when someone is impaled on a pike. That's the way she was impaled. It was, I don't know if I can say, a mercy killing for her. And obviously the villagers are upset with the foreigners. Like, how could you do this? We invite you into our home and we treat you with respect, and then here you are violating one of our people. And the villagers just went ballistic, and the men started raping the female rescue mission lady, and it was so crazy. And the way they were attacking them was to literally dismember them for food. Like the way they broke down their body parts was so graphic and so fast. They literally cut the woman in half, like from her vagina to her head. It happened so fast. And I was just like, when did we reach here? And I just couldn't believe it. That cutting her in half, the way it was shown looked so real. I just couldn't. I just don't know what animal, I don't know what special effects they used, but that fucked me up. And I've never seen anything to that extent to this day, because everything looks like video game violence in these movies. No matter how realistic, nothing looks like that. I don't know what they did. Maybe they cut up a monkey. I don't know what they did, but it looked so fucked up. And then like these guys are dismembered and stripped clean to the bone, where the tribespeople are even drinking out of their skulls. And I was just like, wow. Hey, like the men deserved it for what they did to that poor girl, but the woman didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve it. But maybe I don't know. But that is also a pretty disturbing movie, and I don't advise anyone to watch it. So yeah, I hope you learned something from this video. Don't feel the need to go out of your way to watch disturbing things just to prove that you're hard. Like, there's no point. The world is full of awful things. You don't have to expose yourself to more awful things. If you do watch these things to try and remind yourself to stay alert, like the way we listen to true crime podcasts and watch true crime documentaries, so be it. But just remember that you are going to be disturbed and you are going to be terrified. And yeah, but yeah, people who force people because they think it's funny can all take their ticket to hell and never come back. People who watch these things and genuinely enjoy them and get off to them, may you also take your ticket to hell and never come back, because we don't need you. So yeah, that's been the video. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye.